Back again. It has been a few months since I've posted a booktube video, but I am definitely going to be back for BookTrek 2024, which is what I'm here to announce. So if you are not familiar with BookTrek, it is a reading event created by Vin over at Revenant Reads, and I'll have his channel linked down in my description, where participants go on the main mission, which is to read Star Trek fiction from any of the shows or movies. And there are two optional away missions. The first away mission is to read a nonfiction science-related book that could tie into the science of Star Trek. The second away mission is to read fiction or nonfiction that ties into Star Trek in some way. They could be parodies or memoirs or books about the making of Star Trek. For example, last year, one of the books I read was Boldly Go by William Shatner, which is a memoir. And then I also read fan fiction by Brent Spiner, which is a fiction novel that was based on something that really happened to him while he was filming Star Trek The Next Generation. There are also some really great co-hosts, which include Steve Donahue, Michael K. Vaughn, Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic, Fred at Read by Fred, and Randy at The Literate Texan, and I'll have all of their channels linked down in my description as well. So normally this would be the point where I would share a potential TBR, but I haven't decided on a TBR yet, and I have not done a Star Trek book haul for the last 2 years. So I thought that I would show you all the books that I purchased in the last 2 years. So let's start with some hardbacks. I picked up IQ by John Delancey and Peter David. One of my Star Trek reading goals is to actually read all of the books that involve Q, so I was really happy to find this one in hardback. I then found Imzadi by Peter David, and Imzadi 2, also by Peter David. Again, I was super thrilled to find these in hardback. And then I found this one. I don't remember. I think this was just a random find, called Phasers on Stun: How the Making and Remaking of Star Trek Changed the World by Ryan Britt. I thought it looked interesting. It has some nice photographs inside it, and I thought for $5 I would give it a try. And then I had pre-ordered Making It So, which is Patrick Stewart's memoir, and I'm very excited to read this. I will definitely be reading this year. And then some of my favorite science fiction novels are these timescape novels. So I've been looking for these, and I, in the last 2 years, have found quite a few of these for good prices. So I have picked up Black Fire by Sunny Cooper, Yesterday's Sun by A.C. Crispin. I actually had the sequel to this and was going to read it last year, but then realized I didn't have the first novel, and I did find it, so yay, I will probably read these two books this year. The Wounded Sky by Diane Duane, Mutiny on the Enterprise by Robert E. Vandeman, The Prometheus Design by Sandra Marshak and Myrna Culbreath, The Abode of Life by Lee Corey. And then I found some of my favorite Star Trek novels, which are these really old, I forgot what they called, Star Trek adventure novels, but they were the numbered volumes. I found Mud's Angel by J.A. Lawrence. I was really excited about that one. Perry's Planet by Jack Haldeman, and Web of Romulans by M.S. Murdoch, which is actually a Timescape novel, and I had it out of order. Then I picked up a few more numbered novels. I found Time Trap by David Dvorkin, Mind Shadow by J.M. Dillard, Ghost Walker by Barbara Hambly, Ice Trap by L.A. Graff, Double Double by Michael Jan Friedman, and Faces of Fire by Michael Jan Friedman. And then one of my other Star Trek reading goals is to read all of the novels that have to do with the Stargazer. So I already had a hardback edition of Reunion, and then I found, these are all of the Stargazer novels, but I'd have to look it up to be sure, and these are completely out of order. I can't remember their proper order, but we have Stargazer 3 by Michael Jan Friedman, The Valiant by Michael J. Friedman, Stargazer Progenitor by Michael Jan Friedman, Stargazer Oblivion by Michael Jan Friedman, Stargazer Gauntlet by Michael Jan Friedman, Stargazer Maker by Michael Jan Friedman, and Stargazer Enigma by Michael Jan Friedman. I think that's all of them. And then yet another reading goal I have is to read the Genesis Wave books. So a couple of months ago, I was in Kansas City and I stopped in to Half Price Books to fill in some of my Star Trek holes. Some of these books you see here came from there. But I found all 3 of the Genesis Wave books, so I'm super happy about that. And I think Read by Fred said he was reading these, so I will probably read these as well since I'll have somebody to talk about them with. And then I picked up a few random ones. Star Trek The Lost Year by J.M. Dillard. I actually really like J.M. Dillard as a Star Trek author. I've read a few of hers now, and I really, really like her, so I'm going to try to get all of the books, all of the Star Trek books that she wrote. And Shadows on the Sun by Michael Jan Friedman. And then A Probe by Margaret, what's her name? Wander Bonanno. So last year, I read the Prey trilogy, which are, let's see, Hell's Heart by John Jackson Miller. And then book 2 is The Jackal's Trick. And book 3 is The Hall of Heroes. And I absolutely loved this trilogy. This is easily the best Star Trek story I have ever read. However, there is a book I should have read before I read these. I'm not big on reading these in order, but I definitely probably should have read Kalis by Michael Jan Friedman before I read these. Now, I did have it in paperback, but I didn't realize it was going to be important to this trilogy. So if you do plan to read the Prey trilogy, I would suggest you read Kalis first. And I did have the paperback at the time. However, this year I found it in hardback. So I was super thrilled to get this in hardback. So at the tail end of BookTrek last year, I started Demons by J.M. Dillard. I only got this far in, and then I kind of lost my Star Trek steam. So the reason I wanted to get this finished last year is because I wanted to read all of the Invasion series of books. I'm really, really interested in those, and I didn't have them at the time, but I did have this. Didn't finish it. I will finish it this year. But since last BookTrek, I found this bind-up of all of the Invasion books. So I'm super excited about that, and I'd really like to finish Demons and then also continue on and read these 4 Invasion books. Now, I don't think these are actually directly related, but from what I understand, the aliens in Demons are similar to the aliens in the Invasion series. And then finally, I have picked up some Next Generation books. I got book 35, The Romulan Stratagem. Book 31, Foreign Foes. This one looks like an 80s cover all the way. And then I found this one randomly called Glass Empires. It's a Mirror Universe bind-up. There's like 3 different books in here. I wasn't familiar with any of these. They all have different authors as well. Let's see. There's Age of the Empress by Dayton Ward and Kevin Dillmore. There's The Sorrows of Empire by David Mack and The Worst of Both Worlds by Greg Cox. And I really do like the Mirror Universe, and I have a couple of others. So I don't know. I may try to get to these this year, but I don't know for sure. So I think that's it. That's all of the books that I've hauled since 2 years ago when I did my last BookTrek haul. And I hope to see some of you participating in BookTrek this year.